Richmond High School. I'm honestly really nervous to be standing here tonight. I never thought I'd have to speak at a school board meeting about something like this. I'm here because I'm scared and I don't know what else to do. When I first found out that a biological boy was using the girls' bathroom, I felt uncomfortable, then I felt anxious, and then embarrassed. And now I mostly just feel fear. That fear is so strong that most days I don't use the bathroom at school anymore. I hold it in all day until I get home. I know that's not healthy. I know it can cause problems like infections, and that scares me too. But I feel like I have no other choice. The office did tell me I could ask for a single stall bathroom pass, but even that is really stressful. I feel nervous walking into the office and asking for it. I feel worried that people are judging or thinking I'm causing problems. It makes me feel singled out and embarrassed just for wanting privacy. There are also things girls go through physically that boys can't. There are certain times in the month when girls genuinely need to use the bathroom more than often. That is just a part of being female. Having to manage that while also worrying about a boy being in the bathroom is humiliating and stressful in a way that is really hard to explain unless you are a girl. I am 16, I'm a junior, I'm older, and this is still really overwhelming for me. I keep thinking about professional girls in the underclassmen. I've talked to younger girls who are terrified to use the bathroom. Some of them are even getting bullied or made fun of because they feel uncomfortable. That is not fair, and it really hurts to see the school not stepping in to stop that. This is also difficult for me because of my faith. I believe God created man and woman differently and intentionally. People connected to that makes me feel like my beliefs don't matter. I'm also an athlete. I love sports. I work really hard, and I worry about what these policies could mean for girls' sports safety in the future. But honestly, the biggest thing I want to say tonight is this. Girls should not have to stand in front of the adults and beg to feel safe at school. That should already be guaranteed.
Keep going! Keep going! Keep going!
Is not put us in situations where we feel scared, embarrassed, or ignored. I'm asking you, please listen to the girls in this district. Please protect our privacy, our safety, and our dignity, because right now, a lot of us feel like we are being forgotten. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today we are going to discuss something that's very important to me because it's happening in Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today we are going to discuss something that's very important to me because it's happening in my own state of Wisconsin, but this is happening everywhere. And the title of this show is this the end of girls' bathrooms in the Midwest? Because the policy that I'm going to be discussing, it's not just in Wisconsin, it's all over the Midwest: Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois. And probably one of the only areas that's not happening in the Midwest is Iowa. And, but it's just insane. It's really insane. And I call this a bathroom policy, but it's not even really a bathroom policy because this board did not have the guts to create a policy. You know why? Because in New Richmond, Wisconsin, a small rural town, they voted over 60% for Trump. This is a school district that came out in droves to reject the Title IX rewrite from President Biden, written by we don't know who, because we know it wasn't by President Biden, as he didn't have the mental capacity to do so. But the Star Chamber that controlled the country for the 4 years, they were behind a 1,500-page rewrite of a simple paragraph, a paragraph that provided protections and opportunities for women and girls in K-12 education and in college. This simple statement that opened the doors for women and girls, something that feminists fought for very hard. But now they are gladly handing it back over to men. It blows the mind. It really does what's happening right now. But anyway, the lack of a policy on bathrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms. Now we know, headed to the Supreme Court, there are two really big cases about males in sex-separated sports, men invading women's sports. And as I am talking to you now, there are men, biological males, that are winning first place, that are beating girls in California and out west in the most woke areas that they literally they cannot hand over all women and girls opportunities to the men fast enough. They're just like, take some more. Like Hillary Clinton had that guy that's the Congress that now goes by Sarah, and he mansplained to us how he is the perfect representation of a woman. And if you can't accept him as a woman, well, then are you not really a woman? Well, I guess that's what he would say. Insanity, sheer insanity, but I digress. So what's happening in this area of New Richmond, Wisconsin, I want it to get a lot of attention, and not because it's my home state, although obviously I care deeply what's happening here. It's because I want to shine a light on what's happening all throughout the country, even in red areas, even in places that they think I'm safe, I'm okay, we voted the right way, we fought, or maybe they think that the Trump's executive orders, so grateful for them, very appreciative of them, but because there are certain areas that have some case law in place that gives wiggle room to the woke, they are using every opportunity they can to continue this trans insanity. So in New Richmond, there is a non-policy because there is no policy for what the school district is doing. They are allowing biological males into the shower rooms, locker rooms, and changing areas of biological males in middle school and high school. They are doing this because they were able to insert language into board policy in 2022. They inserted language that added gender identity to their non-discrimination policy. And because of that, they claim their hands are tied. Their hands are tied. As a matter of fact, there was a conversation that they had with a couple of young ladies where at the New Richmond High School, I want to find a quote, that they said, you know, hey, I hope this makes sense. I've heard, we don't want to get sued. I've heard it's probably not fun, says an administrator. But if a student makes you uncomfortable, they say to a girl that's complaining about this policy, you can come down here, meaning to the office, and use our bathroom. Or the nurse has a bathroom. We can unlock the bathroom, or the custodian can unlock the bathroom, and at one of our guidance offices. So just come down to the other end of the school, make your way down. You're probably going to be late for class, so we're going to give you a tardy pass. And then we'll unlock, we'll have someone go and unlock the door for you and let you in. And we'll wait for you to come out. And then you can come out, and then, do you see this? This is like a 10-minute, 15-minute process for this girl. And she simply says, this sucks. She said, this sucks. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to go out of the way to use my bathroom? And they're like, oh, well, we just want everyone to be kind. We just think everyone should be kind to this one boy. Be kind. And our hands are tied. Oh, sorry. Like, I know that you have to carry the burden. That's what they say. I know it's unfair. I know that you have to carry the burden, but you know what? Be kind, be inclusive. Basically, shut up and let this boy have your bathroom. Let him use your locker room and changing room, and you can go to the janitor's closet. Isn't that nice? Oh, isn't that a great compromise? No, the girl's right. It sucks. It's a sucky compromise, and it should not be happening. It absolutely shouldn't, but it's happening. And so we want to shine a national spotlight on this in the hopes of reversing these bathroom policies all over the country. It has to end. Men can't become women. Women can't become men. If you identify as a biological sex other than the one you were born with, I am sorry that you are struggling with reality. But your struggle with reality is not my problem. Nor is it my daughter's problem. That is between you and your therapist and your parents. But you do not get to come into the school and dictate that everyone bow down to you because of your feelings. Learn early in life that the whole world does not revolve around your feelings. That's something very important to learn, and it will do you well in life. Your feelings do not create policy for everybody. We are going to operate on biological fact. And the reason why so I'm starting this opening monologue before we talk with the lovely and gorgeous Evita Campos Duffy, who was present with her husband, Michael Alfonso, that she was there at this meeting with her husband, Michael, who's running for Congress. So he's running for the 7th congressional district, and New Richmond is in this district. So on the campaign trail, they went out of their way and they stayed for this 4-hour meeting. And because Evita is a journalist and she kind of knows her way around these things, she told her husband, write something about this so the whole world can know what's happening. And so he did. Michael wrote this great article that just appeared in the Federalist today. And it's kind of distills this whole big debate down to this article. And so great job, Michael. Bravo. I'm going to bring this up. This is what it is. 5 things to know about the secret Wisconsin school trans bathroom policy. And so I encourage you to go to the Federalist website and take a look at this quickly. I am actually quoted in it, which is great. But talks about this school board meeting that happened last week, Tuesday. We live streamed this. We live streamed on our Moms for Liberty YouTube, and I live streamed it on my YouTube platform on X. So if you would like to watch the whole 4 hours, you can. It actually, if you are like me, I was riveted. I've watched it twice. The school board speeches were amazing. Listening to the school board reason, or actually not use reason, to discuss their non-policy of allowing boys into girls' bathrooms was torture. But if you want to know what you're up against, watch it, okay? Because first the lawyer talks for the first hour, and then you see the hours of students and parents and community members rise up and say, this is crazy. You've got to have a different policy. And then you'll see at the end that Christy Whalen, who is running for school board, she comes up at the end real fast. Christy Whalen comes up and she presents a model school board policy on bathrooms, keeping sex-separated bathrooms. And this policy was written by none other than the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. And my friend Corey Brewer was very instrumental in this. And we're going to talk to her as well briefly. And she's going to kind of get into the details of this policy, which is great. But this model policy, written by a legal team, the lawyers at will have argued before the Supreme Court. They just recently submitted amicus briefs on behalf of their plaintiffs in the 2 Supreme Court decisions regarding males and female sports, and cannot wait. I was in DC as oral arguments were heard on those cases. And I think that we're going to have favorable rulings on there that are going to continue to erode this narrative that it is kind, it is inclusive, it is okay to open up the private spaces of women and girls to men. So, but I don't want to wait till then. And even if we have a favorable ruling from the Supreme Court, there's going to be the argument, well, they didn't mention bathrooms, did they? The woke never sleep. They never stop. So we've got to find solutions to this problem, because these are middle school girls, high school girls that are being affected, and boys, because it can happen the other way. A girl can come into their space and make them feel uncomfortable too. So we need to deal with this. We need to deal with this problem. And so I highly recommend this article in the Federalist. I also wanted to share, just to give you a little bit of insight, I wanted to share one speech. And this is a speech of a dad. And so there's a bunch more that I'm going to post, and we've already posted several speeches of the girls speaking, the teenage girls, and they've gone viral, picked up by Libs of TikTok. Thank you very much. And lots of other friends, and greatly appreciated. But here, this I'm going to be putting on our social media channel, so you get the first look. So let's look.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hector Mejia. I'm a father of 7. I have 4 kids here in the Richmond School District, right? This was brought up to us probably about a week or 2 ago, I guess, when everybody else found out. Me and my family, my kids brought it up to me, and my daughter, she's younger. I have an 8-year-old daughter in the elementary school. As a father, right, I come as a concerned father. But I remember when I was a little bit younger and my kids are ready to come and I say, what would I ever do if something happened to my kid? What would I ever do if a man or somebody did something to one of my kids? I tried to put that away. That thought I don't ever want to think about. I didn't want it lingering. As right now, when we took the 10-minute break, I went to the restroom, right? I go to the restroom myself, let me use the restroom real quick. As I go in there, and I'm in the restroom, I use the restroom, the other men are there. I could have just imagined if my daughter was in there and were to see something. How would you feel? If you're in a restroom or your wife or your daughter, somebody's in the restroom and they go see a man go in there and pull out his and do whatever they're doing. Yes, I'm not saying that I'm not talking about no other community. I'm not saying that they're gonna go do something to them. But what if they see a glance of something? This is when we stand up, guys. We can't be pushed over. We can't just let people come over here and say, you know what? I'm not condemning nobody. I love everybody. But I come to you as a man. What decision are you going to come to today? When I came in this room today and I heard the Lord right here speaking, it was pretty much telling me this is what's going to happen, guys. This is what's going to happen, and this is what it gave me excuses to why this is going to happen.
That's right.
We're going to have to be held accountable for everything we do in this life. Whether it be now or we're going to make it. And this is where the change comes. What are you going to do? You're going to just stand here and let this happen? Ben, bro, I give it up to you. I understand it's hard. But as a man, like a concerned father, think about the right decision, man. What's right? That's all I got. God bless you.
Wow. That's amazing. I come to you as a man. We need more dads like that. There were a lot of dads that spoke, but this is a Hispanic man. And, I thought that the left, don't they, like, we're supposed to elevate the brown voices. I'm just kidding, but, I'm Puerto Rican. So I guess that doesn't, I guess if you support you want to keep your daughter safe, they're not going to elevate his voice because he's not saying the right thing. He's not understanding that in the oppression Olympics, he's got to take a back seat to the kid that identifies as trans. And you don't sacrifice truth for a lie. You just don't do it. And there's a dad that is refusing to sacrifice truth for a lie. There were a lot of other great speeches, and I'm going to be posting more of them. So, keep an eye on, and I'm going to put this, Moms for Liberty on X, at Moms for Liberty. You're going to see some more speeches being posted. So without further ado, let's go into the interview with Evita Campos Alfonso. And she is a bright young lady, mother to be. Her and her husband, I love to see young people getting involved, and especially when they're smart and they know what they're doing and they have a dog in the fight. They have a kid that they want to raise in this community, and they don't want to have to worry that their daughter or son is going to have to deal with some of these issues. So let's bring this up. So let's get started with Unleashed right now. Hello, everyone. This is Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty, and I'm here today with Evita Duffy Alfonso. I'm so glad that you could join us. Hello, real fast. I have list stuck on my teeth.
Oh no, you're good.
Good now. Hopefully, you didn't say it before. So, Evita, you were at a school board meeting in New Richmond, Wisconsin, and I don't think many people across this nation have heard of New Richmond, Wisconsin until recently, when stories about what's happening there have gone viral. And thanks to the moms of Moms for Liberty, we got some tips. And when I found out what was happening there, I was shocked. And Evita, this is now enter Evita and your husband, Michael Alfonso, who is running for Congress in the 7th District. And New Richmond is a part of the 7th District. So you were there at that meeting. So since you have been born and raised in that area, tell us about New Richmond and why the story of boys being allowed in girls' bathroom is such a big deal there.
Yeah, so Scarlett, first of all, I want to say thank you to you and to the Moms for Liberty because we would not have heard about this had you guys not been sounding the alarm bells. I had no idea it was happening until I saw your Twitter feed and learned that New Richmond is allowing trans-identifying men to invade female bathrooms in their school district, and of course, vice versa. And this is really shocking for New Richmond specifically because if you know anything about New Richmond, it's a small community. It's a city of only around 10,000, which is pretty small. And they are middle class, they're working class, they're mostly white, they are mostly traditional. They're part of the 7th District of Wisconsin, which you're right, is where Michael is running for Congress. And the 7th District voted for President Trump by 20 points. So this is a very conservative area, and that includes St. Croix County, which of course New Richmond is a part of. So the transgender bathroom policy is not at all reflective of the actual people who live in New Richmond. And Scarlett, you have been sounding the alarm bells on this for years now, but it's so true that local elections matter because what I discovered last night and what Michael discovered last night is there is a massive disconnect between the values of the regular parents and students at that meeting and then the school board members, as well as the attorney who is counseling the school board members and other members of the school district. So real divide, local elections matter. These actually are partisan elections. I will shout out one member, Ben Engelhardt, who was actually supportive of the parents. Other than Ben, everyone else was extremely cowardly and not in line with the parents.
Yes, in the school board meeting, which I was able to air live, it wasn't the greatest video quality, but it's because there were local parents that were using their phone and they were able to put it on their YouTube feed, The New American, and they're so new that they could only allow 200 subscribers to watch. So I was able to mirror that and put it on our Moms for Liberty channels. And that at least allowed people to have some insight into what was happening, those who couldn't attend. And so I was able to watch the whole meeting. And what you saw with Ben, he at first put his first motion after hearing all of the lawyer talk for a long time, and they had an administrator come up and try to explain their policy. He saw the people that were there. This was a packed auditorium, and again, this is a small community, completely packed, and said, let's extend the public comment time for another hour. And there were crickets when he first put out that motion. Finally, at least somebody, one of the other board members, seconded the motion. But that's that's the level of cowardice I saw with this board, that they couldn't seem to decide whether or not they were going to allow the citizens of their community to speak. And in public comment, part of their policy is you can only speak if you are a resident of New Richmond, a tax-paying resident. So those that were signed up to talk, they were all residents, and they were not quite, they didn't seem confident in the belief that even their residents could speak to them about this issue. Thankfully, Ben brought forth a motion and someone seconded it, and that did happen. But it was indicative of the level of just, I don't know, apathy. Hard to believe that this board could not have been touched by the public comment where there were so many young girls and their parents that came up to talk. For me, what was very, very touching and kind of just made me extremely upset was to hear about all of the teenage girls and how they felt ignored and forgotten.
Well, I mean, the same goes for me, Scarlett, and I think it'd be helpful for everybody listening to kind of have a little timeline of what happened at this meeting. So the first thing that happened was you had the legal counsel so this is somebody who's unelected, it's a bureaucrat. His job is to just advise the board, the elected school board, on what they should do policy-wise. So he comes up, he has a slideshow and a presentation where he essentially says, this is the law. We have to let men in the girls' bathroom. We have a lot to say on that. He's wrong, but that's what he said. After the legal counsel talked, you had another school administrator, again, try to come in and justify this policy. And then the board had asked their own questions, and then they opened it up to public comment. So public comment lasted for 2 hours long, thanks to Ben, which was wonderful. After the public comment, the board then made comments on the public comments. And after the comments were made in the public comments, then Ben introduced a resolution to actually fix this transgender policy right then and there. He introduced a reversal that essentially said only biological males and females can use the bathroom of their sex. And so that was not passed by the board. It was extremely cowardly. Only 2 of the board members, of the 7 board members, voted to pass this new policy. And then they went on to say that they would agree to review the policy at a later date. And in my opinion, this was a move to basically make a decision on this where they're not going to make a decision when not all these parents are in the room and they don't have the same kind of public pressure that they do at this moment. So very cowardly from the board. And that's just kind of the layout of the meeting. And each part of the section of the meeting has its own, I think, conversation to open up.
Yes, you're right. That's a good thing to lay out the timeline. I think that I wanted to mention that the policy that Ben brought up had just been released by Will, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. So this wasn't something that Ben just sort of dreamed up. It was model policy created by very astute lawyers that have won cases in Madison. They have argued and won cases at the Supreme Court. This is not just, even though they're called Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, they are actually a national nonprofit legal firm that takes up cases that really that no one else will, and protects people like me, because I won a case, they were my legal team, and they fight for free speech. They fight for parents, and right now they're fighting to protect Title IX and Title IX in the way it was originally intended, which is the protection of women and girls. So he had a model policy written by lawyers, and it simply said these spaces are going to be sex segregated. There's going to be women's bathrooms, there's going to be men's bathrooms, boys and girls, that's it. And yeah, like you said, they 2 voted for it, and then they agreed to table it and put it to committee. And that's where I think they hope it will just languish and that the residents will move on. They'll forget about this. And then they're going to hope that something happens where it's not as uphill for them as it is now. Because frankly, the state of play, even in Wisconsin, even with the 7th Circuit Court, there is a very strong case to be made that schools absolutely can have policies that are sex separated. That means that bathrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms can be sex segregated. I would love for the interpretation of Title IX to be they must be. But right now, it's they can be. They can be. So with that, that gives this district the ability to make the right choice. And I hope and I pray that there are parents and girls that come forward and that they file a lawsuit against the school district and they fight the current policy that's in place. And that's going to be an avenue for change.
And I hope, Scarlett, that they get rid of the vast majority of these school board members, because when Ben introduced that resolution, that again was very well articulated, well thought out, to have sex separated facilities in the new Richmond school district, the other members of the school board said, "What policy? We haven't read it. What are you talking about?" And Ben had sent them an email with this exact language laid out before the meeting, and they all claimed in public in front of everyone, "Oh, we didn't get the message. We didn't read the email." So two things can be true here. One is that they're extremely lazy and they're not reading their emails, which they should be doing if the members of a school board, especially ahead of the most contentious school board meeting that they're about to ever have, ever, probably in their entire careers as school board members. Or they're lying and they did read it and they just didn't want to vote on it or discuss it or address it because they're cowards. So these members are bad either way. And I know that the intent is to obfuscate and let Ben's policy languish, Scarlett, because of what they said after the parents spoke. So when the parents spoke, it was passionate, it was moving. I mean, that you had personal stories from female students. You had parents and especially fathers, I mean, expressing how it's their job to protect their daughters, and they felt like, I mean, completely blindsided and angry by this policy because it is preventing them from doing their job, which is protecting their little girls. This was very well articulated by the parents, and then after their commentary, you had members of the school board claim that it was the parents who were actually being hateful, that the parents were trying to promote discriminatory policies. So they were turning the table and actually trying to shame the parents for wanting to protect their daughters. So we know already that this is an activist board. We know that this board does not respect the parents, does not respect the safety of girls, and intends on not reversing this policy.
Yes, that is 100% true. And actually, to clarify, this New Richmond School Board does not have any policy on bathrooms. So they don't have a policy. They've never adopted a policy. And I think that we all know why they haven't. They know that they could never bring this up because to adopt a policy, they would have to bring the policy up for reading, read it a first time, read it a second time, pass it, allow for public comment. So they never developed this policy. They say that it was inferred. It was inferred because in 2022, they adopted Neola guidance, where they changed their non-discrimination policy to include gender identity. For those of you who don't understand, Neola is a group, this is how most states operate, if not all. They'll be an organization that writes policy and basically sells it to the school boards. And then they claim that they've got teams of legal experts that are looking over, they're aware of what's going on in the state capitals. And so every year they'll come up with policy and they'll say, now, because of new statutes, because of new case law, here is the way you should change your current school board policies. And in Wisconsin, they gave 3 different options. One school board member told me that it's supposed to be like the more conservative option, the moderate option, and then the woke option. But he said, really, it's less woke, more woke, and super woke. He's like, most of the time, if you have a good school board and a good school board president, you may use Neola, you'll look at the policies, but you shouldn't just grab them, cut, paste, and pass them. That's what a lot of school boards do. That's what this school board did. It's lazy. And if you don't have the time to put the effort to do the job of being a school board member, then don't run. Don't run for this office. Let someone in like Christy Wayland that's running right now, and I really hope she wins. We've just endorsed her. So that is a solution we can talk about later as well. But there's one school board member, right, that is very elderly and was not present. And I don't think she could even hear most of the meeting. It was very confusing, her presence, because it was by Zoom. And I had to have parents who live in the area tell me that, yeah, she hasn't showed up for a meeting. They can't remember when, and she's very sick. She's in her mid 80s, and she's running again this year. My suspicion is that she was told to not resign, to run, and then she'll retire almost very soon after the election if she were to win. And then they get to appoint somebody, and then they get to pick, they get to choose. They'd much rather that than allow the residents of New Richmond to run more, to have this open seat. They'd rather have an incumbent, somebody that they think can win. Incumbents have an advantage. So to me, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. This is just my opinion. And I think it shows that this school board they're not playing it straight with the members of the community.
No, they're not. And just for some context, so the board it's a 7-person board. 6 of the members are male, which is, I think, interesting. And 1 of them is female. The one that you were referring to, Scarlett, is, for everybody listening, the only female on the board. And she actually admitted that she has been hospitalized during this meeting over Zoom. She admitted that she's been hospitalized for months for various physical ailments that she has. So she was Zooming in. She was interrupting people as they were talking because she couldn't hear what was going on. And then, of course, she voted to actually abstain from both, actually, I think all of the votes, because she was basically saying, I'm not here and I don't know what to do. And I never read the document that Ben sent, so I don't know what this is about. I mean, if she truly is incapable of the job, then she must resign. I mean, it's clearly the move here. And if she is aware, then again, she's not being honest, and she's using, this as an excuse, like, oh, I'm not here, so therefore I can't weigh in and do what's right. Either way, she needs to go. I mean, and that's my opinion about virtually everyone on this board, excluding.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, Scarlett, a clarifying question, because this is actually something that's confusing to me. So Ben, I guess, like, he proposes this new policy, but you're saying that the policy, actually, there never was one, that this is just something that they sort of have been doing without passing anything. Now, if I look on the New Richmond School Board doc website, you can see their bylaws, you can see administration. Under program, they have under 2266 a non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities section. And in this introduction, they say that the board does not discriminate on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation or gender identity, in education programs or activities required by Title IX. So is this like a copy and paste from another group? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's a copy and paste from Neola, Neola, Neola policy. And Neola adopted that policy after then President Biden issued a Dear Colleague letter that was sent to Cardona, so Secretary of Education Cardona. That letter basically revamped all of the Department of Education. And then they wrote out a new definition of Title IX to include gender identity as a protected class under the guidance of Title IX. Immediately that was challenged legally. It was up in arms. And the Biden administration was told that it could not make that kind of a change without going through the proper rules process. And that's why it took until 2024, the spring of 2024, for the new definition of Title IX to be revealed by the Biden administration. So one paragraph, a simple paragraph, passed 1972, protecting women and girls' sports and education, became a 1,500-page document of just going through it. I mean, I didn't even read all of it, and I read a lot of it. It was basically a wish list for all sorts of other things, but it culminated, basically, to make a long story short, it basically was a dream wish list for the woke, DEI. It changed the burden. We could have a whole nother conversation about what a nightmare this revision was, and had it been affirmed by the federal courts, what a nightmare situation we'd be in, and had Kamala Harris won, because there was actually language there, speech codes, and that kids, it was essentially trying to monitor kids' speech outside of schools. There was language which there that if kids misgendered outside of school, that they could be dragged into a harassment case, a Title IX harassment case, even if they did this outside of school. It was horrendous. But regardless to say, it was never adopted. So this Dear Colleague letter was the basis for Neola to adopt these policies, to insert gender identity into the language of school board documents. So in Wisconsin, if you weren't paying attention, and a lot of people weren't, 2021, you're about to have your annual board meeting and you're going to decide, we're going to pass policy. Well, they'll just put all the policies together. They'll publish them on a website with a link. Most of the board members don't even read all of the policies. They're just assured by their lawyer, by Neola, that go ahead, this is all well and good, look it over and just pass it. So they'll pass it. Well, embedded into the policy was this term, gender identity, in non-discrimination policies. And there was no need to do that, because Biden's redefinition of Title IX never really happened, because the courts interjected immediately, and injunction after injunction was filed. Then in 2024, when this rewrite came through, immediately states, Florida, Tennessee, all these states filed and applied for injunctive relief. Moms for Liberty had a case, it was the Kansas case. We actually won our case. July 2nd, 2024, we won, and injunctive relief was provided to any school that had a child of a member of Moms for Liberty or YAF. And that we went to work, and that was a crazy summer. Well, then another case, I believe it's the Tennessee decision, said that there were so many different injunctions that the courts issued a nationwide injunction against the enforcement of Title IX. So by fall of 2024, the new definition of Title IX, there was no teeth behind it. The federal government under Biden or Kamala Harris could not enforce what they wanted to do with Title IX. So it never took off, yet policies were enacted. And it's a long story to say that when you're not watching, bad things can happen. And so the whole basis for what the lawyer was saying for the first hour, that's why I was kind of up in arms the whole time, because I'm like, that's only half true. A lot of things that he said were not quite true or half true.
Yeah. So Scarlett, the Neola policy, around what year would that language have been injected? Because I heard from some parents that this policy has been kind of an open secret for over 10 years.
So because they're talking about Whitaker. So this is a case that was 2016, 2017, and in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So in this case, there was a girl that was identifying as a boy, and she wanted to use the boys' locker rooms when she was changing and the boys' bathrooms. And they did not permit that. They had sex separated spaces. They also did not have single stall bathrooms. This was all very new back then. And so her and her parents obviously went to court, and she won. They did have to allow her to use the bathrooms, but there's a lot of language in that decision that said this isn't a blanket kind of free for all, that these things would have to be decided on a case by case basis. She had some medical issues. I think that there was no, another thing, the judge had said that there were no kids or students that complained about it. So parents complained, but they said there were no kids that complained about it. So they're like, well, no kids are complaining about it. A few parents are complaining about it. She's got medical issues. Okay, yeah, she can use the boys' facilities. That's a long story short. But so that single case in the Seventh Circuit, and that is the jurisdiction, the appellate jurisdiction under which Wisconsin resides, that started the ball rolling of, hey, if there's a kid that is identifying as transgender, we're going to have to, maybe we have to let them use the space of the gender they identify with. And I don't believe in all of this language, but that's what they would say. And so that's when it started. And so some districts, I think, started to adapt that. They were advised by lawyers to do this. But the policy specific to New Richmond was the term gender identity was not in place until they adopted the 2021 Neola guidance, and it went into effect in 2022. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because I mean that's helpful context. I think a lot of times parents are seeing what's going on and it's so confusing. Well, how can school board members not even be aware that this is a policy? I mean, Ben said, I found out when you guys found out. No one even knew that it was happening. And there is something that I think is really key here, an environment of fear that seems to have kept this secret under wraps. So I met a colleague of yours, Jolene, I believe is her name, Scarlett,
Yes,
right?
Jolene. Yes.
She's wonderful, such a sweet lady. She's actually from the St. Croix area. She's a representative for Moms for Liberty, and she has heard reports from parents that their children knew about this, but they didn't tell their parents and they didn't want to make a fuss about it because they were afraid of being labeled transphobic or bigoted or hateful. So it's this environment of fear of not wanting to seem like you're a bad person that caused a lot of these girls who are afraid and uncomfortable from speaking up even to their own parents. So that's how this policy has been able to operate kind of as an open secret for so many years. And I think why so many parents were shocked that they're just finding out about it now.
Yes, Jolene has been amazing. She is the St. Croix County Moms for Liberty chair. So she's been the point person for me in all of this. We've had numerous Zoom meetings with some of the moms and some of the daughters. We're a small group and trying to find out what's going on and then to encourage them. And I can tell you, after talking to the young ladies and the moms, there was a lot of fear about speaking out at the school board meeting. And it took it took at least over a week of just really talking and encouraging and being supportive of the moms that they really shined last night. I was so proud of them. They really found their voice, and the moms, when they felt confident, the moms and the dads, they were able to pass that confidence down to their daughters. And I was hoping that there would be girls that would speak up and they would give their personal testimony. I didn't want a situation as happens so often, where many girls are uncomfortable. Many girls don't want these boys in their locker rooms, in their changing rooms, in their bathrooms, playing on their athletic teams. But they're girls and they're teenage girls, and they just have so much, they have a lot of trouble saying how they feel. They don't want to hurt someone's feelings. They don't want to be different. They don't want to be singled out. They're rule followers lots of times. Like, they want to follow the rules. They don't want to make the teachers angry. They don't want to make the principal angry. So they stay quiet and they go along. They may know that their parents would be very upset to find out that there's a boy in their bathroom, and then their parents might make a fuss, so they stay quiet. And they did stay quiet. They stayed quiet until, look at February. This had been happening since the beginning of the school year. And it wasn't until just a few weeks ago that finally one of the freshman girls had to explain to her mother why she was refusing to go to school, why she would run home and run to the bathroom immediately. Her mom's like, "Why aren't you using the bathroom at school? Why are you acting so different?" She was more withdrawn. Her mom said she had noticed just big differences in her daughter. Finally, she broke down and she told her mom what's happening. She also told her mom that she had gone to the school administrators and said, she and a few girls, and said that they weren't comfortable with what was happening. And the administrators basically told them, "Well, you don't really have a problem, do you? Like, this isn't really a problem. You want to be nice, don't you? You're a good person, aren't you?" That kind of that really makes my blood boil. You know what? Especially why, Vita? Because they didn't call the parents. They didn't say, "Hey, before we talk to you, we should probably have your mom or dad here." And after the meeting, they didn't call the parents. So that really, really bothers me, because I want to be with my daughter in these situations, because she's a kid and she's with adults and she doesn't have the capacity to protect herself. And I would definitely want to be there for these conversations. I do not think that there should be such important conversations had with school officials without parental knowledge or consent.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Scarlett. And the situation is, it's as described to me, and again, this is allegedly,
Allegedly.
it is very concerning. So there is the catalyst of this, the young woman that you were describing, who said she didn't want to even use the bathroom when she's at school. There is a boy, a male student, high school student, who has decided at the beginning of the year, "I now identify as a female," but he grew his hair out. He didn't change his name. And he is crossing campus, allegedly, to use the freshman bathrooms particularly over any of the others. So he's taking a hike to go and make sure that he's using the freshman bathrooms whenever he gets a chance, which of course is making these particularly freshman female students very, very uncomfortable. Again, this is an older male trans identifying student. And the response from the school principal has been to parents and students, if your child feels uncomfortable, you can just use one of the single stall restrooms. Now, according to you, Scarlett, there are only 4 single stall restrooms.
And not all of them are open. Not all of them are open.
Okay, so I mean, you're talking about hundreds of girls for 4 stalls. Not even any of all of them are open, and it's sacrificing the comfort of and the safety of hundreds of female students at New Richmond for the satisfaction of one delusional male trans identifying student.
Yes, and
The optics are absurd.
by not open, I mean, they have to go to the office. They have to ask for a pass to use a pass and have these bathrooms opened for them. I mean, so they could be on the other end of the school, and then they have to walk to the office. Then they have to announce, "I have to use the bathroom. Can I have a pass?" Well, as you know, that identifies them as one of the kids that's not comfortable using the girls' bathroom. That makes them identifiable. And a lot of the girls, either they're nervous about people knowing that they are one of the kids that's uncomfortable with a boy in the bathroom. They're nervous that they're going to be taunted. They're nervous that they're going to be bullied. And again, reports that I have heard from parents and from a few girls is that they did experience bullying through through Snapchat. They were getting posts, they were getting teased, they were getting threats, such that there was at least 2 girls that didn't want to go to school once this whole thing started to kind of come out in the open. And the parents had to coax, and they had to call the school and say, my daughter doesn't even want to go to school now. She's getting teased. She's getting bullied. What are you going to do about this? We're all so concerned about this trans boy being bullied. My daughter's actually getting bullied. So what are we going to do about this? And it's really a whole big plate of nothing is being done about what's happening to the girls. They just have to suck it up and take it. Another girl who's a junior who spoke, and I can say her name, Ella, because she described this experience. She doesn't want to walk that far. She just holds it. And women menstruate, okay? Because men can't get pregnant and men don't have periods, but women do. They menstruate. And so there are times of the month where they need to use the bathroom more. They want to now call their mom and say, can I drive home and take care of things, then come back to school? Well, this is extremely disruptive. This is all so disruptive. And there's this very easy answer. Open up the stalls for this single boy and leave the girls alone.
Yep. Well, I'm just thinking, like, if you're on your period, you put a tampon in, I mean, you're risking toxic shock syndrome.
Yes.
I mean, it's a real medical risk what they're doing. Scarlett.
UTIs.
Yep, that too. That too. I mean, this entire situation is out of control, is not reflective of the people that are there. And to me, I think and I want to ask your opinion on this, Scarlett, because one of the first things that happened at the meeting, which you might have missed if you were watching the stream, as the legal counsel was lecturing everyone, again, this is an unelected bureaucrat who's basically telling the parents of New Richmond, we have to have this policy. It's the law. Again, it's not.
And guess where he's from? The Twin Cities too.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Right. So he's lecturing everyone. Parents are getting very frustrated. And a parent in front of me actually stood up and said, that's it. I'm homeschooling. He announced this. He walked out. He never came back. So what is your opinion on parents who are in this situation who feel that the board is going to try and let this languish? They're not going to fix the problem. They clearly want this policy. They've spent an entire 4-hour meeting justifying the policy. Do they take their kids out, or do we risk losing all the fighter parents if all the good ones do that? What do you think, Scarlett?
We risk losing the fighter parents because it's going to be the upperclassmen girls that are standing up and speaking the most, and that's pretty much what I saw. I think that there are a lot of girls that don't want this policy, but it's going to be upperclassmen that have more courage. They're going to matriculate. They're going to graduate, and their parents are going to be like, fine, I washed my hands of this now. My kids are out. If you have young kids, yeah, you're thinking about homeschooling, or maybe there needs to be a private school option. We need to figure something out. Or there's a private school that's a 20 or 30-minute drive away. I'm willing to do it now. I wasn't before. I'm willing to do it now. I'll get another job if to get my kids out. And that you lose your strongest parents. I have seen it happen way too many times, even in my own community, where when finally just too frustrated, everyone just started pulling their kids out and they put them in a private school. They move to a different community. They check out. We're not there in New Richmond. These parents want to fight. And a lot of these families cannot afford an expensive private school. There are a lot of single moms. There are 2 working parents who cannot homeschool. That's not an option for them. So they are committed to fighting for their community. So I hope that they do, because if they keep showing up the way that they did last night, they absolutely will win this. And they'll win it at the very least by winning the school board elections. There is the opportunity to elect someone different right now. I mean, the elections are in April. They can vote for Christy Westland. She spoke, and I've met her and talked with her personally. She's amazing. She's run for school board 3 times. She really knows, she understands Robert's rules. She understands policy. She will sit and recite where the board is violating policy. She really cares about, and so she's not going to be a school board member that's just going to phone it in. She is going to be there. She's going to represent you. And she is fair and open-minded. She will do the right thing. So her winning would be huge. I think it's really sad that the school board member, I think her name, well, I won't name her, but she's more elderly, and I feel bad that she has been held up for many months in a hospital. But she should bow out of this race. She should drop out. They don't want her to, because if she does, Christy Wayland she has a spot on the board. There's 3 seats, 4 people running. And I think it's very unfair to this community that someone who is not capable of performing the functions of a school board member, who is not well, that somebody is telling her you should stay in this race. I don't think that's very compassionate. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I didn't think it was the right thing to do for Joe Biden to remain president when he clearly did not have the capacity to take on that job. And so I think it's very unfortunate, this situation, but it is what it is. And people of that community have a chance to vote. And if I were them and I were voting, I would vote only for Christy Wayland, because it's a winner-take-all system. They're ranked by the number of votes. In Wisconsin, at least this is how it works. They don't run head-to-head elections. So the top vote getters will win those seats. So if you want a more accountable board, if you want boys out of your daughter's bathrooms, you need to vote for Christy and only vote for her. We're hopeful there could be a write-in candidate, but that's a stretch. We've got to go with what we have, and what we have is Christy. And I think they're going to start. I know that I am making plans to come to that area before the election and campaign and do everything that I can to help get her elected. So if you live in this area, support her. And if you don't, and you would like to donate to her campaign, I'll make sure that I add her website to this stream so that you have the ability, give $20 and help the people of this community.
So I listened to Christy. I thought she was excellent, super articulate. If you pull up the stream, you want to go to the public comments, she's in there. She did a great job. My question, Scarlett, is if we get Christy and we have Ben, who's also great, they're still in the minority on this board. And I was getting a lot of comments from people saying, can we recall some of these members? Can we forcibly remove them? And even though we don't have somebody else on the ballot, we'll trigger, maybe an emergency election of some kind. I don't know what the rules are on that, but a lot of people are asking, is there a way to just like right now get rid of some of these members?
You're asking the expert on this, because I was part of a group that was the first successful recall of school board members in the history of Wisconsin. So we recalled 4 school board members. But I will tell you this, we did not win the election. It was brutal. It was tough. We won the recall, but it takes a lot out of a community. There's a lot of emotion. And at the end of the day, you recall those members, and then there's a special election. So you have, the minute you file recall papers, you have 60 days to collect a certain number of signatures, and there's a formula by which you follow. You get those signatures, they're accepted, reviewed, and once you have the correct signatures and then that's certified, then the recall is over. You won the recall, but now the special election, they get, there's another 30 to 60 days, and which you have to run a campaign. Enter the money of school boards, of teachers unions, and there will be a lot, and we don't have a lot. They will go, I'll tell you, there was 4 of us. They went after everything. They cut your family, your history, everything you've ever done. They bring it up. They will do everything to crush and demoralize you. They have a lot of money. It's hard. So my advice would be that is a tool in the toolkit. That would be last resort. You win this election, have Christie on. That's 2, if you have 2 strong, conservative, smart people, they together can start to expose what's happening. They can, if it's only those 2 votes, you might be able to win, maybe win somebody over whoever it is that seconded Ben's motion. Maybe you can win somebody, and then you have 3. Then the next year, there's another election, and I believe there's at least 2 or 3 seats up. That's where you get control of the board. You take the whole year where it's Christie and Ben, and you just keep plugging away, trying to do whatever you can do. And then when the election, then you recruit very good candidates to say, we can have control of this board, and then we can have policies that are in line with our community, and we can get back to focusing on education and providing the highest quality of education to the children of our community. So that would be, to me, I would go the long route. It's the more viable route, and I know it may not get that immediate relief, but if you keep putting pressure on this school board, there's going to be resignations. I've seen that happen. That just happened in Watertown. 2 conservatives won, and it was a 3-4 school board. But the amount of pressure that they were able to continually exert kind of wore out 2 of the other school board members, at least 1 or 2, and they just resigned. They're like, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this anymore. That happens. I've seen it happen in Wisconsin a lot. So that's would be my advice. I would say, don't think about recall yet. Save that if something very egregious happens. Really try and go through the process that's available to you right now.
I think that's really good advice. And I hope somebody clips this and then sends it to all the parents in New Richmond so they get that explanation from you, Scarlett. Because something important about these school board members, I was looking them up yesterday and this morning. Who are they? How long have they been in office? Like, how long have they been in charge? These are pretty old school board members. And that's normal. And old isn't necessarily bad. But when you talk about wearing someone down, when you talk about somebody just throwing in the towel and saying, I'm done with this, that's a real possibility if you're somebody who's been on the school board since the 1980s. And you
Yes.
might be in your 80s or 90s yourself, and you don't want to have this fight anymore. It's a pain in the butt. You've got parents furious at you, students furious at you. So other than, I think, actually Ben and 1 other member of the school board, most of them are very elderly, and they've been in and out of the school board for years, like years and years
Yes.
and years. So that's important context for parents to know. These aren't like young 20-year-old radical left-wing activists. These are people that I think you can probably break down, do the right thing, or get out of the way.
Yes, and always we say joyful warrior respectfully, but
Yeah.
persistently, because
Yeah.
there's joyful warrior. Warrior is the key word, that you're a warrior. There's a lot of things that I don't like about woke tactics and woke policy, but their persistence, you have to give the devil its due. They are persistent. We
Yes.
need to be equally persistent. We need to, when we lose, not stay on the ground, not take our toys and go home. We need to keep fighting and keep coming back, keep saying, I'm not going anywhere. You're not getting rid of me that easy. Just the act of just persistently showing up and talking and speaking and making them explain, make them do work for this seat. They're used to coasting. They're used to getting, oh, here's some Neola policy, here we go. Or they'll talk to a lawyer, like they do whatever they're told. They don't even know how to do, they can't think independently for themselves. It was apparent to me when they're looking around like, can we adopt a policy? I don't think they even have a firm grasp of Robert's rules. They don't understand board policy. They just have been phoning it in so long. They are so out of step. And if you don't, with that, the next generation that's coming after them, they will be young. They will be very woke, and they will know how to manipulate the system such that you won't recognize your community anymore. And you'll be the area where there's a drag queen story time, and you'll wonder, like, how did we get here? This is how, because if you don't stand up right now with just this one boy, it will spiral into so much more. So please keep fighting and stay involved. And this is your community, Evita. I'm sure, like, Michael was pretty shocked by what he's been hearing and what he saw. And I think that there's a lot to fight for. You're about to have a baby. You want your child to be raised in a community that was like what you grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, and that hits the nail on the head. I mean, there's so much motivation. And Michael, by the way, we consulted with you, Scarlett, about, if Michael actually gets elected to Congress, what can Michael do? Real concrete examples, very easy, defining biological sex as male and female in Title IX so that they can stop reinterpreting it in these ridiculous ways. Easy. Congress can do that. They probably should have done it yesterday.
Yes.
But that's why you need fighters in Congress who are going to make this a priority. For Michael, it will be a priority.
And young fighters too. I think young men, like, that's why I'm young and full of like fire and have a baby, and they're gonna they're the Davids that are gonna take on Goliath.
And Scarlett, I mean, I think what you laid out, even just having this conversation with you, I feel really hopeful about what can be achieved in New Richmond. And when I left, I will admit that the board, they said, we're not going to vote to have this, biological sex respecting policy now. We're going to table it and discuss it later at an undisclosed time. And the feeling in the room was very downtrodden. I mean, they had just done 4 hours of this, and they made their opinion heard, and they did such a good job. And then it felt like, oh, we just lost. But what you're saying, Scarlett, is this is not over. Like, this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
The parents need to know that. We need to spread the word, because I think you're 1,000% right. The energy in that room is enough to, I think, win this. They can do it.
100% it is. It's the energy in that room will change the community if it is consistent and persistent. If you don't let down and you just keep showing up and you keep standing up and you keep making your voice, don't let this just go away. Don't think, well, what can I do? That's what they want you to feel, like it's hopeless. That lawyer was there to make you feel like there's nothing you can do. You can't change anything. It's funny because if that was the advice, why all these ICE protests right now? Why are they are always going after President Trump. They never stop. It's relentless. They don't give up. They tell you to give up. They tell you there's no hope. But with what we have, all of the things that we discussed, all of the points that Ben brought up in that meeting, and there's so many more, we have the legal ground to stand on. We've got President Trump in office and in charge of the executive, and that's federal funding, and they are risking losing it. That is a very real possibility for them. We have so much, the wind at our backs, but we're being convinced that that's not true. We're being convinced that we're hanging over a cliff, and that's optics. They're very good at that. They're very good at manipulating, using propaganda and optics they're fooling these teenage girls into believing that everyone hates them if they don't want a boy in their bathroom. The majority of girls don't want a boy in their bathroom. You are in the majority. You just don't know it. So the more that you speak things out, this is what Jennifer Say said, wearing the shirt. The more you say something that's true, the more that inspires courage so that another person can say, you know what? I think the same thing. And pretty soon one person can be labeled crazy. 2 people, 3 people, 5, 10 people, and you've got a movement. And that's what you have to think. You just can't go quietly into that dark night. This is your time to fight. And if this isn't your hill to die on, I don't think you have a hill. So you need to make this fighting for your daughters. Don't let them put you through these humiliation rituals. That's what they're doing. This is all struggle session. This is Maoist struggle session. And you survived it. And you'll survive more. That's all you have to do. You survive it and you keep fighting, and that's how you win.
Listen, I think you hit the nail on the head, Scarlett. And for parents, maybe who are listening, like, I have used Moms for Liberty and used specifically Scarlett as a resource for years now. You're incredibly articulate. You know the law. You have the game plan. You fought these battles before, so you don't have to think that you're alone. I mean, go use the resources that you have, and which is Moms for Liberty, who have done this, who are ready to be helpful in any way possible, because we all want to see this change. So I don't know, Scarlett, I'm blown away by you and what the work that you guys are doing and the way that you helped these parents last night. It was incredible to witness. Even though we didn't get the kind of outcome that I think we would have really wanted, there is a game plan.
Well, this is the outcome did not surprise me at all. I prepared the parents I worked with for this. I said they actually texted me afterwards and they said, this is exactly what you said would happen. So what did surprise me was the level of engagement and the number of girls that spoke up and the number of parents. That was a very pleasant surprise. So this is just the beginning, and I appreciate that you were there with Michael. And there was a representative for Tom Tiffany there, and there were representatives for other elected representatives in that community, but they are in session in Madison, just the way Tom Tiffany is in session in DC. But they sent representatives, they put out statements. You are not alone. You have the ear of your local elected representatives who care very deeply about this, and they are talking about it online in social media. So you're getting the attention of the whole country right now. And let's get the attention of the Department of Justice. Let's get the attention of the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education, and let's make this the test case that would be my dream. Let's make this one of the test cases so that we can stop this madness in Wisconsin and all over the country once and for all.
Couldn't agree more, Scarlett. I couldn't agree more.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm so glad that you were able to share it. You were there in person, and I'm really glad to get your perspective. Keep fighting, and I know Michael right now is on the campaign trail. So I wish you both well.
Michael wanted to be here, he is so committed to this. He was there last night, and he stands with the parents. He wants to go to Congress and actually make sure that this does not ever happen again. That is the goal. And so thank you so much for having me right now, Scarlett. And Michael's here in spirit. He's totally on the same page. So
yes. All right. Well, I'll see you both soon, I'm sure.
Thanks.
Okay. That's good. That's great. Thank you. Now I have to run and get my daughter, but that went really well. There's some good, and I'm glad you brought up the recall, because I actually, someone asked me about that. They said, could you talk about that? Because I want to stop. Don't talk about recall. Go work those campaigns.
Parents, you must always hold the keys to the AI toolbox. AI is already in classrooms across the country. Millions of teachers are using AI in various ways. They use it to grade papers and to streamline their workload. They use it to create individual learning plans for students. And students are already using AI too. They're using it for research in the classroom, and some are using it to create new technology and use it in innovative ways to advance their learning. It's really exciting to to see what's happening. Truly, there's also a downside to having AI in the classroom without any guardrails. We hear stories in the news already across the country, and parents are testifying that this is happening.
Parents who say character AI is also pushing dangerous content to kids, and at times acting like a digital predator.
These companies knew exactly what they were doing. They designed chatbots to blur the lines between human and machine.
1 in 5 high school students reported that they or someone they know has had a romantic relationship with AI.
Researchers found the bear openly discussed sexually explicit and dangerous content with kids.
The other problem that we're seeing with AI is it's not always true.
Sometimes AI can tell you what you want to hear, not necessarily what is true.
It's not helpful when students just use it to directly cheat.
Parents have to understand the algorithms that are basically set up to direct our children to look at certain things, feel certain things, and believe certain things. That's the role of a parent, not an algorithm.
We are living in a moment of wonder, and it is our responsibility to prepare children in America.
Moms for Liberty is leading the charge on unifying, educating, and empowering parents to understand AI and how it's impacting our children. We're already doing this by joining the AI and Education Task Force under the leadership of First Lady Melania Trump. I've personally attended 2 meetings at the White House on this. I've spoken to members of the cabinet about the guardrails that need to be put in place to protect our children. Because we understand the importance of empowering you to protect all children, we've created model policy that you can download and take directly to your school board and ask them to adopt. We've created school board speeches that you can change and modify for yourself and use to speak to your school board in a public forum. We've created draft policy for the state level that you can go meet with your state legislators and ask them to sponsor the bill and start moving it through the process so that all the children in your state will be protected.